Hi, everyone. Good morning. I'm so glad to be here for the first time speaking in a Liferay symposium in Spain. And I'll be honest, I think this is one of the greatest Liferay symposiums I've ever been. And I'll share something. I think I like everything about Spain. I like the people, the wine, the food. So thank you very much for having me. I've been at Liferay for the past 8 years, where I had the great privilege of leading our Liferay Latin America team. And it was around 1.5 years ago when I accepted the challenge of leading the Liferay Cloud division together with Eduardo Lundgren and Zeno Rocha. And I'll be honest, we've been accomplished so much as a team, guys. We were able to launch our first cloud offer, Liferay DXP Cloud, which takes all the great capabilities of DXP and enhance those with enterprise PaaS capabilities. And the important thing here is that those capabilities are tailored for DXP. So we are bringing to the table auto-scaling, backup and recovery capabilities, self-healing capabilities. We are bringing CI/CD, everything working together with Liferay DXP to help you deliver the best digital experiences to your customers, right? And in this past year, we also had the great opportunity of working with some of the biggest companies of the world, I would say. And I want to highlight one example that's been so important to us, which is the case of Vodafone. Vodafone chose to use Liferay DXP Cloud back in February this year. And they basically were trying to migrate their corporate solution, the solution that they serve around 3,000 big companies from the UK, to the cloud. And one interesting fact about this solution is that they've been trying to make this move for 2 years. They've tried 5 times with different vendors, and they weren't able to accomplish that. And it's a fairly complex scenario. Vodafone, they have 7 different teams working in different features together, where they have different environments for integrating their code, but also for testing. And after each one of those teams are done, they need to integrate everything together in order to test, to pass to the product owners, the business stakeholders, for them to be able to say, that's okay, let's do performance testing after going live. And the procurement process started in February, as I said, and they started developing around in April, I would say. And I'm glad to share that they went live last month, so 6 months of development, and they were successful. So this is so important to us because we've learned a lot. We learned a lot with this experience, and that's exactly what I want to share today with all of you. So we are going to talk about cloud, but most specifically, we are going to talk about cloud migration. I know that most of the companies today are somehow facing a cloud migration planning, or you are already in a cloud migration. So with everything that we've learned, I want to share some of the things that I think it's important for you to consider when planning a cloud migration. At the end of the day, we want to be successful, right? But the reality sometimes is a bit different. So imagine how much money and how much man-hours were invested on this. It's turning not very good. Yeah, so just to look at this makes me nervous, because this is exactly what's happening with most of the cases of cloud migration projects. A research done in the US shows that 62% of the cloud migration projects failed in the past year. And there are many reasons for that. They are failing because of budget constraints, operating issues, time to market. They're failing because of deployment issues, data privacy, monitoring, environment management, and most importantly, cloud-related issues. The same companies that said that their project failed, they mark as 3 top reasons. The first one, budget. Second one, lack of expertise. So many companies were doing in-house migration to the cloud, or choosing not the right vendor to use, so using very complex solutions and not having the proper documentation, support, or training to use it. and also compliance issues. So they didn't look into the industry standards and what they need to have in place in order to migrate to the cloud. So today, as I mentioned, I want to share our experience in leading with some of the biggest companies of life and of the world, and how can we mitigate those risks, right? So I want to share 5 areas that I think it's very important for us to consider when planning a migration to the cloud. The first one, this is basic, but it's so important. I think that having a solid business case, it's the glue of everything that we are doing. It's not about hype, right? We are not moving to the cloud because everyone else is doing, right? So you need a solid business case. And it can be as basic as, oh, I want to move to the cloud because moving to the cloud will make me speed up time to market. I have better conversion rates, which means more revenue, right? Or I want to lower my costs. Moving to the cloud will lower my operating costs, but also make me faster. Being faster, I can use the man hours more properly, saving me money. So you need to have a strong business case when planning a migration to the cloud, because this business case will help you make the strong and the hard decisions later on. Now that we have a strong business case, we need to choose what type of vendors we need to use, right? And there are many type of vendors, and the research I shared, and also in contact with many of our partners and clients, sometimes we think all cloud providers are the same, and that's not true, right? So here I'm just showing like 3 examples of type of cloud providers, but there are many others, and they're differentiated here by what you do with them. So the first one, you host, right? So this is the infrastructure as a service type of provider. So you have, for example, a legacy system, a database, or a system that you don't want to evolve, but you want to save the cost of maintaining that hardware on-prem. So you can use an Amazon or a GCP, Azure, to host that in the cloud, right? And that serves you well. If you want to build a solution, you probably need a PaaS that will bring you tons of tools for you to be more productive. That's where DXP Cloud fits in, right? And you also need sometimes just to consume, to get insights. For example, with Analytics Cloud from Liferay, it is a SaaS solution that will provide insights for your DXP installation, and you can consume that information to use with a DXP Cloud, for example, to be more productive. And one of the fun things that I've seen throughout the many projects that we are involved is that most of the cases, the cloud migration, the project involves all 3. So it's a multi-cloud approach. For example, in the case of Vodafone, they had this legacy system that's running on Amazon. They use DXP Cloud to integrate with that system, and they are using other SaaS solutions. They could be using Analytics Cloud to get insights from DXP to learn and improve the service they are providing to their users, right? And I'll go a little bit deeper and also link to the Vodafone case. Sometimes you don't need only a multi-cloud approach, you need a hybrid approach. Many of your legacy systems are on-prem, and you are not using your time and investments to migrate that right now. But your cloud solution might need to integrate to consume some information from that. So you can use VPN, peer-to-peer connections with a cloud solution to consume that information. So at the end of the day, you are going to probably use a multi-cloud or a hybrid cloud approach when migrating one of your solutions to the cloud. So now we have chosen, we have a business case, we have chosen the right type of vendors to migrate to the cloud. Now it's the time for us to understand what's going to change inside our companies. How having those third parties now involved, how that changed the operating model that I'm used to do it, right? So the current workflows, the current processes, the current operations. So imagine things like how I used to do backups today. How do I ask for new environments when I need to code something? Who is responsible when there is a crisis? Who do I call? Is that someone internal today? Who would that be later on? So you need to map what are the differences from how you're doing things now and how you're going to do things later with your new cloud vendors, and also understand what are the responsibilities that you had before and the responsibility that you're going to have later. This is so important, and most of the time that we were discussing with our clients, it's trying to map those differences for us to be ready when it's time to go live. And this would avoid tons of risk of failure, okay? So again, I'm being simplistic here. There's more that we need to go through, but map the differences in infra, understand the processes that will change, and finally review who is responsible for what and what are the SLAs. So now that we've done, we have the business case again, we have the vendors, we understand the changes, we need to put testing on the core center of the strategy. So there are many sayings about testing. So if your cloud architecture is only be as good as your testing, there is an example with Knight Capital where they went live without properly testing, and they lost hundreds of millions of dollars in one day due to performance issues. So failing to test can cause failure right away, right? And it's not only about code testing. It's not about having unit tests, functional tests. You need to test your workflows as well. So for example, disaster recovery. This is something that's critical. When the time comes for you to know what to do and it's a big disaster, you need to understand what you need to do, the steps, right? But you need to test that from time to time. Otherwise, in a different deployment, you're going to do the disaster recovery that you plan, and it's not going to work. Just for you to understand, at LiveRay Cloud, we run disaster recovery tests every month. So every time we have new features, we run a disaster recovery to understand what are the implications. Did a time to recover change or not? How can we approach in a different way? So the worst case scenario is for us to have a fire and for us to be looking, where is the water, right? We need to know the steps, step 1, step 2 in a case of this, and know how much time it will take in the worst case scenario for us to recover. So now that we are ready for testing, the last piece and one of the most important pieces when we are talking about cloud is we cannot slack on cloud security, right? And one of the baselines that we use internally at LiveRay Cloud, but also many customers use, is start with compliance. So one thing that's important before going to compliance is to understand that cloud security is a shared responsibility. The cloud vendor, they will provide you tons of tools. They will provide you tools for governance. They will provide tools for monitoring vulnerabilities on the network level, on the application level. We will do penetration tests, so many things that we are going to invest for you. But if you are not choosing the right people to have the right permissions, everything it's thrown away, right? So it's a shared responsibility. But as I was saying, it's so important to start with compliance. Understand the industry standards of your solution, and understand, does this vendor comply with those standards? Do they have ISO 27K? Do they have SOC 2 and many other certifications? This is not a bulletproof thing, but this will already clean the vendor selection a lot. So you're going to cut like 90% of the vendors that don't have the proper compliance according to your industry standard. You already start looking into the 10% that has and start verifying what they have there, right? And I want to just share 4 areas from cloud security that I find that's very important for us to look upon. The first one, identity and access management. So who has access to what? And again, maybe use a need-to-know basis when thinking about that. So having the proper governance tools and many other tools. Network security. So for us to be, the cloud provider needs to provide you a way for us to look for anomalies, threats, and to monitor those and to identify what to do and share that with you. The third one, data protection. Are we using the proper data encryption? Are we having the proper data classification and sharing this with the customer? And finally, and I think this is the most innovative one, is you need to think about a workload-centric with security. So we talk a lot about DevOps, bringing together development and operations to streamline the development life cycle. Now the new thing is DevSecOps. We need to include security in the development life cycle. That's the way that you're not going to think, oh, we need to run penetration tests after we went live or after a release. You can do that in the process, right? So this is something that at LiveRay we are thinking all the time, and we are always providing tools and services to help you achieve that as well. So we went through the 5 main topic areas. So again, just remembering, having a strong business case, understanding the different type of vendors, and that you might need a multi-cloud approach or even a hybrid approach. Understand the impacts on now that you have the vendors, what's going to be your responsibility and the vendor responsibility. Understand that you need to put tests in the center of your strategy. And finally, that you cannot slack on cloud security. At the end of the day, it's not about hardware or software, right? It's about delivering services that you help you achieve your business needs, right? It's for you to deliver the best digital experiences to your customers. And that's exactly what we are trying to do with Liferay DXP Cloud. We don't want you to focus on anything else but your business solution. I don't want you to think about infrastructure or managing servers, security, monitoring, or how to manage DXP in the cloud, how to do clustering, how to install DXP. Everything around that, we will take care for you. And we are going to bring tons of features for you to be more productive. So around DevOps, CI, CD, and the list of features goes on and on. We have so many features to share with you in many areas of security, high availability, monitoring, et cetera, et cetera. So I highly recommend that you go to Zeno's presentation tomorrow. It's a deep dive into Liferay DXP where we are going to use a use case and run through each one of the areas and how can we support our customers in achieving a better time to market and a better solution to your customers. So Zeno will be doing that presentation. He's our CPO at Liferay Cloud. And before closing, I just want to share the 3 features of our top 10 features, so for you have a taste of what Liferay DXP Cloud is all about. So the first one is auto-scaling. And again, this is an auto-scaling feature that is tailored for Liferay DXP. So right here, what we are seeing is our console. So when you log in at Liferay DXP Cloud, this is the screen that you're going to see. So you're going to see all the projects that you have. You're going to select the project. And right away, you have a dashboard showing everything that's going on with your project. You can see all the services that are running. So the backup service, the database, the Liferay, if they're running well. You have alerts of everything that's going on there. You know what's the latest version deployed in that particular environment and all the activities, right? In this case that we want to see the auto-scaling, we are going to the service tab, where you're going to see more information about the services that are running. So the endpoints, again, how many instances that we have there. And we are going to click in the Liferay DXP service. Here you have tons of information. You can get logs. You can access shell. You can see the metrics, etc. But for this particular case, we are going to go to the Scale tab. And with one click, we are going to enable auto-scaling capabilities. So now the platform is looking to your Liferay DXP service and looking for different moments. So if there is a high peak of memory or a high peak of CPU because you're having an unexpected traffic, which is good, right? The platform will automatically respond to that, auto-scaling new instances with like magic, right? So in this case, we have like 4 new instances right away. And you can see for how long those instances were auto-scaled. You're going to receive alerts. And also, if the traffic goes down, the instances will go down as well, giving you peace of mind that regardless of the moment, if it is an unexpected traffic coming in, we are going to support you with that. Just one click, and again, tailored for DXP. The second feature, and I think one of the most important features from Liferay DXP Cloud, is our build and deployment capabilities, which basically streamline all the DevOps and all the process of development for you. So basically here, again, SDLC, the Software Development Lifecycle, is the center of our builds and deployments capabilities. And basically, let's say the scenario that you are building a new feature, so your developers are coding in a certain environment. They're going to push using a Git technology, GitHub in this case, for example. And DXP Cloud, we understand that something was pushed, and we'll trigger our continuous integration too that is based on Jenkins, right? Jenkins will test for integration, continuous integration tests, and if it's green or if it's not green, it will show up at our console. So let's see now at console. We are on the prod environment right there, and we are going to go to the builds page to see everything that your developers, your teams are working on. So in this case, you can see that's 139 builds done. Some of those passed, some of those didn't pass, right? And we are now going to use a concept that we are bringing with Liferay DXP Cloud. That is the case of build once, deploy anywhere. Most of the cases, when you're deploying for a specific environment, you need to gather all the information for that particular environment. With DXP Cloud, you don't need to think about that. You build once, and the platform take cares if you want to deploy that build in a different environment. We are going to inherit all the capabilities. So for example, let's use this 139 build, and let's deploy it to UAT, so a user acceptance testing environment, for the product owners to test the feature that our developers are doing. So with few clicks, we say deploy to, we see the version, the commits, everything that's coming with this build, and we are going to choose the UAT environment from this Acme project to deploy to. So again, few clicks, going to the UAT now, you're going to see here that there is a deploy being done. You can go to the deployment page, and you can see everything that you have access to. In this case, I only have access to these 3 environments. And I can see that on the UAT environment, there is a deploy being done. The cool thing here is that you have a list of everything that was deployed. And if something went wrong, you can easily roll back. You can come here in the history and say, deploy this again. Or you can choose a new deploy, another deploy, to roll back and be ready if something go wrong with this one, right? The last feature, and also something amazing from the DXP Cloud, is our disaster recovery capabilities. So basically here we have 2 sets of disaster recovery capabilities. The first one is the automatic ones, and the second one is the cross-region disaster recovery capabilities. On the automatic side, let's use an example in the US. So we have many, many different regions in Europe, in the US, in South America, in APAC. So in this case, we are using the region US West 1, where we have services running in a certain machine. So we have a self-healing capability that you and your development team choose the triggers. If those triggers are not being met, basically the platform will say, okay, something's going wrong with that service. Let's spin up a new service automatically. When the service is up and running and meet all the triggers, we put down the other ones. Everything with 0 downtime and automatically in the platform. The other automatic disaster recovery capabilities that we have is that all services and databases are spread out in different availability zones. So if one server goes down for some reason, everything will be shared to another server, and you're not going to even perceive that fault. The other disaster recovery capability is the cross-region one, and here is more complex, but also very important when we are talking about multinational companies and highly critical scenarios. In this case, let's say there is a big disaster and the entire region of the US West is down. What we are going to do in the platform level is we are going to pass everything to a different region. So let's say you have a DR in London. Everything that was pushed to production in code and in data, it's replicated automatically to a different region of your choice. And with a few clicks, this becomes your prod. So this is amazing, and Zen will probably show that in details working. So please go to his presentation tomorrow to understand how this works, because it's crazy how simple it is. So in this case, Acme has a prod in Oregon. He has infra in Frankfurt region, and the DR is at London, right? So again, everything that's being pushed to the prod environment is also being pushed to the DR. So with few clicks, you can change regions and start serving your customers again. So again, everyone, as I said, we've been accomplished a lot this past year. It's a lot of work, and I'm glad that we have such a great team. And we want to help you be successful as well in your migration to the cloud projects. We've been doing that for many companies, and there's dozen more companies that we cannot share the logos here. But we are very excited of the things that we are being able to do with the DXP Cloud. Please visit our website and request a live demo. Our team will be glad to share in details based on your needs. And that's it for today. Thank you very much, and please enjoy the rest of the event. Thank you.